The first thing that happened when I told people that I was going to retire is they came to me with their list of the reasons why it wasn't going to work. Those reasons are generally based on their own perceptions, their own experience, and their own preconceived notions. Now, don't get me wrong, I had my own set of preconceived notions and my own sets of experiences and the ideas that I had that retirement was going to be like. But ultimately, what I found is it becomes a combination of two. It's partially some of what they've said, partially some of what I've said, but where it's really ended up is somewhere in the middle. So today I'm going to share with you some of the things that I thought would be different when I retired. But before I get started, I do want to mention that I am camping. You'll see that I have my RV behind me. We're on an RV trip for the week, bringing in the new year, enjoying that. And if I get distracted, I apologize in advance. And I have to tell you that I noticed that my glasses are dark, and it's because I have progressive lenses. It's not because I think I'm that cool. I mean, I could take them off, but then I can't see. And so now I figure seeing is good because I just got to see. So I apologize for if that's distracting for you, I apologize in advance, but let's go ahead and get started. So here's 8 things I thought would be different when I retired. Number 1, I thought I was going to be bored. I'm a man of action. I like to do things. I like to get out. I like to explore. I like to see different things, do different things, and I like to be busy. Even when I was working, I'd find myself in the evenings doing the things that I want to do because I had to work during the day, and I'm sure a lot of us are the same way. And I thought as soon as I got out of the workforce that I was going to be bored. I didn't know what I was going to do with my time. And I'll tell you, the reality is that's furthest from the truth. I've found myself in a situation where I'm able to explore interests that maybe I had before that I wasn't able to fully go all in on. I wasn't able to really be good at anything because I was doing too much. In fact, one of the interview questions that I would get every time I changed jobs is that, what is it that you hope to attain? And one of the things I'd hope to attain was, instead of doing a million things, I'd like to do a few things well. And so now I'm at the point where I could focus on doing the things that I want to do well. And I don't spend my time doing a bunch of stuff, but I pursue my interests. So my gardening, RVing, stuff like that. So number 2, I thought I was going to be on RV trips every week. I thought I was going to be on vacations every week. So I thought I was going to be in different places. Those of you that have been rocking with me for a while know that last year we went to the Panama Canal. And that was a great, great, great trip. We saw the Panama Canal. We saw the Eastern Caribbean. It was just a great trip. It was a good transition from going into the office every day to being able to just relax. But you can't do that every week. Just the planning itself, it takes to get a vacation. And there's nothing to get away from. When I was working, I found that part of the reason that I wanted to go on vacations was to get away from the bullshit that I was dealing with at work. But the reality is now that I'm retired, I'm not dealing with any of that. If I don't want to deal with it, I just don't deal with it. So I'm not getting away from anything. So the whole transition of vacation and travel is different because I'm not thinking about I want to get away from something. It's about the experience. So it's not I need a change of scenery because I've set my home up. And I think if you've been rocking with me, you know that I've set my home up in such a way that it's kind of my Zen sanctuary. But I don't need to get away. And so now it's just a matter of having those experiences, enjoying nature. Out here camping, I could see nature, hear the trees. I have neighbors all around. It's just beautiful. It's nature. It's nice and crisp outside, and I get to see a bunch of things. And so I found that I didn't go on vacation every month, but when I felt like I wanted to experience something, now I just go and experience it. I have a couple of trips planned. I'm going to go see my best friend in this coming year and hang out with him, see his family, see some friends down that way, maybe go do some fishing. I have another fishing trip planned. My wife and I are talking about our next RV trip. So there's a lot of stuff to do that's just interesting. And so it's less about getting away and more about the destination and really enjoying my life and having the capacity to think about it. The third thing I thought was going to happen was I thought I was going to be stressed out about money. And if you look at any of the financial news, if you look at any of the news, any of the political news, I mean, it has you on pins and needles. I can't say it any other way. But it has you on pins and needles because it just makes it seem that we're going to hit a 1929 style depression. We're going to hit calamity. It's going to be like George Orwell's 1984 is about to burst on the scene, looking lean with a hardcore dream. The dream doesn't symbolize I made it to the top, but RoboCop last year was a shock. Just kidding. But anyway, I digress. But what I found is everything that I believed in and everything I talked to you about believing in terms of putting money away and setting up the systems to have money work for you, it comes to fruition. And so it put me in a spot where I have to take my own advice and do trust the markets. And I'll tell you, when we went to Panama last year, the other side of going to Panama was I was nervous because that trip was fairly expensive. But the reality is that the markets have performed in such a way that whatever I paid for that trip, I've made at least 10 times that since that trip. And I don't anticipate that happening every single year, but it takes away from the stress. I just don't think about it because in order for me to find myself in that type of situation, a lot of things have to happen. It's not to say that they can't, and it's not to say that I shouldn't think about those things because I do. I think about them regularly, but I don't let them consume me. And I think when I look back at my life, I think about how many what ifs came around that, not that I took into account, but that I allowed to consume my thought process. And so I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to allow things like that, and I don't allow money to do that. And I trust the process, and I don't try to control the process, but I set it up so it works. The next one is, and this is funny because as I look around YouTube, I see this a lot, and there's people that think they're going to miss working. Now, don't get me wrong. There are people that love their job. There are people that are working, that are doing their life's work. But here's the fact. And, again, I keep it real. I keep it 100. And the fact of the matter is most people aren't. Most people aren't doing their life's work. Most people have a job because that's who would hire them, and that's how they make their money, and they need that in order to sustain. Folks, I'm not hating on that. I'm just saying that when you get out of that, it's so liberating. I was watching TikTok the other day, and it was talking about people that had gotten out of prison. And it talked about the idea of being institutionalized and how you get used to certain systems and processes, and then you come to rely on those systems and processes in order to feel like there's order in the world. Well, working is no different. And I thought that the day after I retired, I was going to be stressed out and miss working and want to go get another job. But that's just further from the truth. I think the thing that I did early on that really set me up to be in the right place was I set up a personal mission statement. And my personal mission statement is to uplift the human condition in any way that I can. So while I may not have a job, and I don't go in and I don't do work every day, I'm still trying to help the community that I'm in. I'm still trying to help people. I'm still trying to uplift people. I'm still spending 6 hours a week on a YouTube channel to help inspire others. I'm still working in the Master Gardener program to volunteer in the community to help people bring food to places that maybe live in food deserts and things like that. So the work itself doesn't stop. It's just going into work. And so do I miss work? Hell no. Do I miss the people I work with? I'll say this. I miss them about as much as they miss me. And there are very few people that I talk to that I used to work with because now we just don't have that commonality because I'm speaking of peace and love and happiness, and I'm not thinking about next week's meeting or any of the bullshit that I had to deal with it back, in the office. So another misconception that I had is I thought that I was going to be golfing 3 to 4 times a week. And my relationship with golf is interesting because like most of us, I'm not very good. I like to get out and hit the ball, but when I reflect, and this is one of the things that I found when I retired, was I was able to spend, and I continue and constantly am spending a lot of time reflecting. And as I reflect on why I played golf as much as I did, it's not because I particularly love golf. It's because it gave me some downtime to be able to decompress and switch gears from the previous week to the next week. And so now that I don't have that need, every day is like Saturday. So I don't need to decompress from one week to the next week. If something happens, I deal with that thing in real time. I don't have to set up processes or systems or activities to get from one place to the next. So it's incredibly liberating. So now I might golf once to twice a week if a friend of mine wants to go, but if nobody calls me to go golfing, I'm probably just not going to golf. I'm going to go do other things because there's so many other things that I love to do. But there's a difference between doing things because they fit into a time schedule and doing things because you just love to do them. And so now my life is really about just doing the stuff that I love to do. And one of those is spending time with you here on the channel. Let me know some of the things that you do that help you, that you enjoy doing. Because again, I'm locked into my set of experiences and my understanding. And there's a whole, what's the song in the movie? It's a whole new world. Well, it's a whole new world, and I just don't know what else is out there. And so, give me some ideas. Let me know. You can leave it in the comments, and I may just take you up on and do some of those things. One of the things we talked about was finding an RV club. We have a Fleetwood Bounder, and Fleetwood Bounders are one of the iconic RV brands, which is great. And so to go with other Fleetwood Bounder RV enthusiasts, I think that'd be great. Go around the country because we have the time to do it. I could jump in the RV and say, let's go, and we're out the next day. So, but let me know. The other expectation that I had that didn't come to fruition, and it's actually the opposite, is that I thought I was going to regret my decision. I didn't know that retirement was going to be what it was. I thought I was going to come out, it wasn't going to be working, I was going to get anxious, I was going to run out of money, I was going to be unable to have fun because I'm stressed out about things. And I'll tell you, the absolute opposite is true. This is the best decision I ever made, except for marrying my wife. My wife and I, we were just talking last night, and my wife and I, I'm not going to say she's my best friend and all that because I just think that's too cliche, but it's just us. And so that's the best decision I ever made. So I just want to be clear. I want to be very clear, crystal and clear, as I like to say. But besides that, this is the best decision I ever made. And it really validated a lot of earlier decisions. If you're like me, I was putting money away. I was in the 401k game. I was in the, everything I talk about on the channel, I was doing those things because I'm not going to speak to you about stuff that's not, that I don't do myself. I got to practice what I preach. But I was doing those things and I was telling other people, you should do this and this is what's happening. But then I would think to myself, like, what if it doesn't work? And what if the market crashes? Or what if, and we had a couple market crashes. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the 2001 crash. It was the first and only time I ever got laid off. I remember the 2008 crash. I had just bought a house and ended up keeping the house, by the way, so I didn't lose the house. With COVID, I was involved with that. All of those were significant market downturns, and I was able to weather those and still come out on top. My point being is those were all decision points, putting money away and not having that money in my pocket and not being able to bling it out in the way that others that appear to have money bling things out. I didn't know if that was going to work, but I figured, I'm just going to try and do it. And so by being able to be here and be as comfortable as I am at this point is phenomenal because it really validates decisions that I made earlier on when I didn't trust that the financial systems or that the markets or that the things around me were gonna hold up to the test of time. And so my advice around that would be just trust it, do the research on the systems, set up the system in such a way that you have no choice but to succeed. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday and we were talking about saving money. I said, if you are relying on going down to the bank or taking money and doing transfers online every month in order to save money, it's not going to work because there's always going to be something that happens. But if it's automatic, if that saving is automatic, if the money goes to your bank from one account or to your brokerage account automatically, and there's a process to get that money and that process is arduous or just a pain in the ass, then you're not going to do it. And so if you're not going to go and do those processes, then that's the kind of process you want to be in, because if you go and you do get it, that means you really need it. And if you really need it, then by all means, you should get it. But the fact is, to be able to buy some shoes or to go to the club or to do any of those material types of unnecessary things, you don't need your money for that. And what ends up happening is you end up spending all this money up front And then when you hit hard times, you're upset and you're saying, I wish I wouldn't have spent so much money on all this other stuff. And so I think that I would have done it sooner. I trusted the fact that because that's what I did, or I didn't trust it, it validated the fact that because that's what I did, it made me feel really good. So not only do I feel good about the fact that I would have to go to work on Monday, I also feel good that what I did worked out and I tried, because a lot of people told me a lot of different things and there were a lot of naysayers, and unfortunately not everybody's in your corner when you think about doing things that may benefit you in a way that's different than them, because they haven't seen it. A lot of people just hadn't been exposed to it. The other thing I thought would happen is I thought I would run out of interests. I thought that, okay, I can only golf, fish, RV, and so on so much. But folks, I'm just gonna tell you, based on my experience, the world is so big and there's so many things to do. I guarantee you, just go and take a walk around your neighborhood one day if you haven't walked in a while, and just look around. Or if you have a grocery store that you go to, just walk to the grocery store and buy a pack of gum. Maybe not gum, maybe a bottle of wine, or whatever you go to the store. But I guarantee you, when you walk to the store, if you drive most of the time, you'll see things that you never saw before. You'll experience things you never experienced before. And that's just in a 20, 30-minute walk. And so imagine what happens if every day of your life, your goal is to wake up and just experience life. Not to experience a particular thing in life, but just to experience life, to experience the world. I'm sitting here now, I got neighbors across the way that are about to cook breakfast for them and their kids. I've got birds behind me, I've got golf carts behind me, I've got cars behind me, I've got my cat meowing over by the door trying to come outside. I've got all these things going on, but it's all part of the experience. Can I get mad at any of it? No. Am I gonna tell people to go be quiet no, I'm not gonna do that, because at the end of the day, life is about the experience. And so it gives me the opportunity to experience things. And I just don't have enough stuff I just don't, there's no way that I could run out of things. I just can't run out of interest. They don't all have to be big. They're not all expensive. They don't all cost money. Some things are small. Sometimes it's just talking to somebody. Sometimes making a new friend. Who knows? Whatever it is. So again, I thought I was going to run out of interest, but that's just the furthest from the truth. And I'm constantly exploring and just seeking out new interests and it's less of seeking things out, but just allowing myself to be open to them, because I now have the time to do it. I'll give you a quick example. So I think I've mentioned before that I got a buddy of mine, he's like 84 years old, and we go walking every Tuesday. And so when we first met, he would walk around behind my backyard, because I have that gate. I think if you've seen other videos, you'll see that I have this gate in the back, and so people walk on a walking trail. We would walk, or he would walk by, and we would talk for a couple minutes, keep going. And one day he says, maybe we should walk together. This is when I was still working. That all sounded good. I didn't have the time, so I couldn't do it. And so by just having the time, I was able to do something that I didn't have the time to do, and I wasn't able to do, which turned out to be one of the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Enlightening experiences in my life, because what I'm able to do, similar to how I'm helping you gain some perspective about what your future might look like. At 84 years old, I'm 53, he's able to help me gain some perspective on what my life could look like going forward. And it's just incredibly enriching my life. Plus, we just laugh so hard. If you want to figure out what a good laugh is like, go meet an 84-year-old and let them tell you the stories of their life. I mean, it's just, you're growing, you're laughing, it's incredible. And then the last one is I thought that I was gonna be lonely. I mean, I have my wife, and my wife and I are really, like, we're golden. We're golden. But I thought I was gonna lose a bunch of people. I wasn't gonna have people around me and some of that. But I found, again, the opposite is true. I've adjusted my friend sets a bit, so that way I have friends that fill my cup. At this point in my life, the goal here for me isn't trying to be anything. It's just trying to fill my cup, trying to enjoy my life. You look around at most people are walking around frustrated. Most people are walking around like zombies. And it's funny how much different you are from when you're a kid to when you're an adult. Because as an adult, most of your time with your kids is trying to convince your kids that stuff that they're doing isn't realistic, or to be realistic about the things that they're doing, or to stay within the lines. And then you get to that point where you're an adult and you're wishing you were a kid again because you had so much freedom, you had so much time to do different things. You were able to just live footloose and fancy free. And while you're working, you can't do that. One of the things that I think about a lot is I think about just my opinions. I have very strong opinions on a lot of things. And unfortunately, in roles like I had at the executive level and at any level in an organization, and let me know if you experience the same thing, but if you say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, your job could be at risk. So I had to be what others wanted me to be. And so what happens is people then start to endear themselves to you based on what they perceive of you, based on how the actions that you're taking to control that perspective or that perception. And so then when you retire, you don't have to worry about that. So then you can just be yourself. And if people are going to be frustrated, let them be frustrated. If people are going to be happy, let people be happy. But my point is that you are no longer bound by the expectations of others. And so those people that you meet when you're operating as your authentic self is, it's unbelievable, because the people that you meet, the friends that you have, the friends that continue to rock with you after you've moved into that new stage of life, generally are going to be friends that fill your cup. And you have the mental capacity to think about it and to determine, is this person filling my cup? And if the answer is no, no harm, no foul, turn the corner and keep it moving. That's what I do. And different people may feel a different way about it, but it is what it is. Because my job isn't to make other people happy. The reality is, I was telling a buddy of mine yesterday, you can't make other people happy. If you try to make other people happy, then what's going to happen is, as soon as you don't make them happy, then they're gone. So stop trying. And happiness comes within. So so those are the 8 things, I believe it was 8, that I thought would be different in retirement. I think sometimes there are people that tend to draw a conclusion. And again, I understand that not everybody's going to be able to retire, but even as you take a look at living your best life, the fact is a lot of people that you interact with aren't living their best lives because they're bound by things that create angst and frustration, and they don't have the capacity to live their life to the fullest. And so the goal here isn't to try to get you to retire. I mean, I think it'd be great if everybody retired, but the fact is we still need people to work. But my point is I think people need to live their best lives, because if you think about how we interact with each other as humans, and you think about how difficult of a time we have as Americans, it's not due to anything except for the fact that people just don't have the capacity to be kind. You're in a rat race, you're running, you're rushing, you're trying to do a million things, you don't have enough time to do the stuff that you want to do. And so what ends up happening? You end up frustrated, you end up angry, and then who takes the brunt of that? All the people that you interact with. So on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off here, but if you like this channel or you like the content and you relate to it, or you know others that may be able to relate to it, feel free. I ask, subscribe to the channel, share the content, share the channel with somebody else. I put up content about once a week, and I break it out into shorts so you have something during the week, and just talk about my experience, because I want to make sure that I'm not being presumptuous, and I don't think everybody is going to retire. I know that. But I do think we all have an obligation to ourselves to live our best life. Because the one thing that I learned from talking to people that are older than me is that everybody has an idea of they wish they would have done some things different, knowing then if they knew then what they know now. And so my goal here is just to let you know what I know now, so that way you can help make the best decisions for yourself and your family. So on that note, have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.